Hey everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing the build that I use in Shadow War and Alley of Blood. Let's go. So Alley of Blood was only back for a very limited time. As you can see here, it was available from the 14th at 3 AM until the 17th at 3 AM. So yesterday morning was the last chance to play it. But it did have some really nice rewards: battle pass points, scrap material, gold, beguiling dust, normal gems, and also those mystery legendary items that seem to elude a lot of us now that we don't have specific event tabs for each returning event. Now, as always, if you see yourself in this battle, please drop me a comment and say hi. So this was actually my first Alley of Blood match for the short time that this event was in game. Obviously, I work on weekends, so I only got a couple of chances to play this. And I thought I would film one of them so that I could talk through the build that I use, as I find I get a lot of success with this in Shadow War and also in Alley of Blood. Now, one important thing to remember before I go into build details is the fact that in Alley of Blood, your alternate main hand and alternate offhand are not active. This means you also need to ensure you have the correct legendary gems put into the correct gear pieces in your build for them to actually be working in an active. So with Alley of Blood, everyone is leveled out to the same level, so resonance doesn't really come into play. However, your legendary gem effects do still trigger. So the legendary gems I went for in this build are Blood-Soaked Jade, Starfire Shard, Rolling Consequence, Pain Clasp, Wolfure, and Bottled Hope. Alternatively, I could have swapped out Starfire Shard for something different like the Seeping Bile or Viper's Bite if you want an additional damage over time effect, which would actually work nicely with the effects from the skills and set items I'm using in this build, which I will go into now. So starting off with set items, I'm going to go through everything in this build, but obviously please remember in Alley of Blood, not everything will be active. So with legendary items, you're not going to have the alternate main hand and alternate offhand active. But as I use this build in Shadow War as well, I do want to go through all of the details. So starting off with set items, we're using 4 pieces of End Winter. Your damage is increased by 15% when attacking chilled enemies and by 30% when attacking frozen enemies. Bosses immune to chill and freeze effects will become marked, triggering these bonuses. You have a 30% chance to freeze already chilled enemies for 3 seconds when applying an additional chill to them. Cannot freeze the same target more often than once every 10 seconds. Alongside this, we're using 2 pieces of Feasting Barons. It increases the duration of your harmful effects by 30%. And obviously outside of Alley of Blood, we're using 2 pieces of Grace on the wrist. So all continual damage, channel damage, and persistent ground damage is increased by 15%. Now moving on to the legendary items, we're using Terminus Facade on the helm. So slow time now causes you to enter temporal flux, causing your non-channeled skills to reduce the cooldowns of your other skills and increase your movement speed. Slow time's cooldown cannot be reduced by this effect. Slow time cooldown is reduced 7.2% from this essence and an additional 10% from the awakened slot. We have Lasana's Sorrow on the chest. Frostfield now grants you Creeping Chill, causing your attacks to chill enemies and freeze them on critical hits. Frostfield cooldown is reduced 7.2% and an additional 10% from the awakened slot. On the shoulder, we're using Shoulders of the Cataclysm. This one is pretty basic, but meteor damage is increased by 19% and an additional 10% from the awakened slot. On the pants, we're using Frostwalkers. Meteor now summons an icy meteor, dealing damage and covering the area with ice that deals additional damage and chills enemies. Meteor damage is increased by 18% and an additional 10% from the awakened slot. Thistle Bloom on the main hand. Arcane Wind now conjures a storm that grows over time, pulling in and damaging nearby enemies. Arcane Wind damage is increased by 18% and cooldown is decreased 10% from the awakened slot. On the offhand, we're using Alder Crystal. With this one, Arcane Wind now also freezes chilled enemies for 2.4 seconds, cannot occur more often than once every 3 seconds or 5 seconds for players. Arcane Wind damage is increased 10% from the awakened slot. Now outside of Alley of Blood, I'm also using Ice Spike here. So with Ice Spike, every 5 seconds the next magic missile becomes a frost missile, dealing 72,738 damage to all nearby enemies. Damage is increased by 90% and magic missile damage is increased 10% from the awakened slot. And lastly, again outside of Alley of Blood, we're using Unrepentant Gale, so maximum arcane wind charge is increased by 1. Arcane wind cooldown is reduced by 3.6% and arcane wind damage is increased by 10%. Now obviously outside of this build you could always swap out the Meteor Essence and Meteor as a skill and then go for Teleport instead if you wanted some amount of escape. That would make the build a full CC build and you wouldn't have any damage, or you wouldn't have so much damage. That's why I quite like having the Icy Meteor as well, but it's totally up to you. You could swap that skill out and go for Teleport instead. So personally, I go for Meteor as I do like to play a little bit aggressively in PvP in Diablo. For those that have been on my channel and been here for some time, you'll know that I used to play a lot of really close combat, kind of risky builds for Wizard before it was nerfed too much to do that and before we were made to only be a CC class. So for me, I do like still having that little bit of an aggressive stance in these battles, and having Meteor gives me that edge instead of just having teleport and being able to just move away from damage all the time. So what I would suggest is that if you do want to try this build out, definitely test it with the exact setup that I have with regards to skills and essences, and then try it with the teleport instead of Meteor and see which you prefer. You might find that you prefer having that bit more escape. As I said, I personally prefer to have a little bit more of an aggressive and risky build because, yeah, you might die a lot more, but at least it's a way to learn. And also it's nice just to be able to actually get some kills rather than only ever get the assists in these battles. So as you can see, the one thing that I wish they would change with this is the resurrect time in Alley of Blood, because a lot can change in the time that a player is down, especially if multiple players are down at the same time as well. But within the time I have been down, my team have managed to actually take down the second tower. So as you can see on the tool tab on the left side, we are much further ahead than the enemy team. We've taken down both towers and we're now heading towards taking down that crystal heart. They have had quite a few kills, so I'm quite surprised that they've not managed to get closer to our towers, but my CC is definitely helping to keep them at bay, especially with the amount of freeze that we've got, because we've got obviously the freeze from Arcane Wind, the freeze from Meteor, and also from Frostfield as well, so it puts us in a good position. Now, speaking about being in a good position, right now we're not, because all of my team is down. So hopefully one of them will resurrect before I do and we'll actually get some more kills in. I do really hate the resurrect time. It is way too long, and it's also really boring because I don't know if anyone else has this bug, but when I'm in Alley of Blood or Shadow War, if I want to change who I'm viewing, if someone comes alive or anything like that, as you can see currently I'm fixed to viewing the sentry tower. And I am actually clicking on the screen to try and view my teammate that is resurrected, but it doesn't let me do that. Also had some kind of poison hit on me there as soon as I resurrected, which shouldn't have happened because I was already like dead for like 30 seconds, so no idea what happened there. And you can see they're trying to push forward very quickly, but we've got them immediately there, and a nice amount of shards as well to actually boost my damage. Now obviously because I used my bandage as soon as I resurrected, because I had that weird poison effect on me, I now have basically no life. Trying to look for some globes somewhere. Hopefully there are some. It looks like everyone's taken all of them already. This is exactly what happened earlier. This happened to me in Shadow War as well. This is so frustrating. I just need to be able to bandage, but I can't really push forward until I can find something to I just don't want to have to go through that really slow resurrect time. I'm going to pinch some of these from my teammate. Sorry to that guy, you have a lot more life than I do, and I'm just trying my best to help you push forward. Again, crazy amount of poison here. Finally my bandage has restored, so we're going to use that. Keep pushing forward. Their team, they keep trying to push down or push through to our towers. I'm not going to let that happen. My team aren't going to let that happen. You can see we've got one guy down again, and two with declining life. My life has just been hit hard again there. I've got this slow effect from one of those legendary gems as well, and their guardians are also pushing forward here. So we've still got just over or just under 7 minutes on the clock, just over 6 minutes on the clock, and we're getting closer to actually taking down their heart. That's the last thing we need to do, and stop their guardians from pushing forward as well. I'm going to see if I can find some more health orbs here, because I don't want to get hit by the heart's defense or anything else, or hit by their teammates on the enemy team when trying to push forward here. So the wizard is obviously hitting quite hard, as you've probably noticed already, and I've just used that stone hex on that player as well, which you can see is now on cooldown. So I'm just going to bandage here again before pushing forward again. And a few of their players haven't got much strength now, because we've managed to take a lot of them down and obviously take the shards from them as well. And at the crystal heart now, are we going to be able to take it down? We're about halfway to taking this down. Let's just try and push forward. Let's try and take down this guardian as well, so that it's not getting that much defense. And yeah, just like that, thankfully Alley of Blood is complete, and it was a victory for my team. So this was the overall result. So I was actually top for kills. I died a few more times than I would have liked to, but I had the top score there as well, top assists. So really happy with that result, especially as a wizard. And you can see that I also got the badge there for the assists in this battle. So overall, that was actually a really fun match, and I do enjoy Alley of Blood a lot more now than I did previously. So let's take a look at what rewards we actually gained from just this one game. So actually, you can see we've got most of the rewards here already. There's just... oh my god, we got loads of the rewards. So there's literally 3 rewards left. Now, after I did this, I completed one more game just to get the 200,000 damage to towers, but I was already super close to that. I obviously dealt a lot of the damage to towers without even realizing. But that is it from me for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you enjoy Alley of Blood in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Official Diablo partner.